Missing the camera lady. So you're stuck with me for right now. Shine a little light on the situation. Ooh, turn that down. Just a little extra light. There we go. What's up, guys? YouTube is up. YouTube is happening. All right. You guys will have to let us know. Shoot us a comment if you like this going live and addressing some tactics, tool tips. We'll see if we can get through this all. Again, we're missing one personnel. Hopefully they'll swoop in here at the end and be able to help us out with the Halligan bar and hitting that. If not, we're just going to go over regular swinging on your, your fire maul and how to generate more power and those sorts of things. So I just wanted to start putting out small little tools and tips, tools and tricks, tips and tricks, whatever you want to call it, fire maul flip tips, and just start hitting up different sort of topics, right? For one, this one, Connor, what's up, brother? Thank you. What's going on? Again, guys, we're live on Facebook, YouTube, and our website. If you haven't had a chance, go check out our website. Go check out the new live feed on there. These type of things will end up showing up on there. So, again, one of the things we want to talk about is, generate enough power, generate more power of every swing, and that comes from not only your form, but also, our design here, right? So why do we have a fire maul instead of a sledgehammer? Well, a sledgehammer has a big old blunt face on there on both sides. You can hit and hit only. That's basically all you can do, right? Hit stuff. Well, fire maul, again, we designed to be able to hit stuff, capture your progress, chop, right? Extend your leverage, marry to a Halligan bar, all sorts of stuff, right? And part of this design was rolling this blade back. How do we get more out of every swing? When we roll this back, and this becomes my contact point, I shoot my pressure through the roof. Instead of spreading all that pressure out over a large surface area, right, it comes down to a singular contact point, right? So this generates a lot of force, 9.4 head on a singular contact point. Great for, decking, snapping decking boards, those sorts of things. So let me turn my thing back up. Yes, Connor, what's going on? We'll get some more information on you, to that over to you now. Right now we're talking about our fire maul, man. So again, part of that is creating that high pressure system out of your tools. All of our tools were rolled back to be able to create that high pressure system. And so when we get into swing tactics, a lot of times what people don't talk about with a heavy tool is generating power with a heavy tool and allowing the tool to do the work, right? I've seen this when we first had our tools out. Guys would come in, they'd show off doing those big old heavy swings, right? Chopping a hole with a big old heavy fire maul, and what that looks like. Well, a lot of times, really, you just wear yourself out doing those big old swings. So the key to this tool is actually kind of using it like a piston, right? Anytime you have a heavy tool, and even an axe too, if you don't want to wear yourself out, it is using this like a piston, right? Front hand is stabilizer, back hand is your piston, right? So this thing shoots it up and down, up and then down, right? So this hand is stabilizing. I can control my power. I can control my aim a lot better as opposed to relying on my arms. Now, some of you guys might get really good at that, but really right here, this is it. Up and down, just controlling the weight of that tool. And then when I start my swing, when I'm bringing it into my impact point, I'm going to drop my hips and chest and everything with it, right? So it's coming up, and then instead of just dropping my arms, right, bringing this thing down, I bring my whole body with it. I'm going to step back a little bit further. I bring my whole body with it. Up, and then boom, I'm dropping the legs. Up, and then boom, dropping the legs with it. It's how you generate more power out of your swing instead of relying on just your arms, which are going to get worn out. They're going to get tired. Your forearm's going to get tired. Your grip's going to get tired, right? So use your body. I'm coming up, piston up, boom, swinging down, piston up, boom, swinging down. So what that looks like, we have, I got some flooring here, tongue and groove, just on some pallets, but generate some cross members. And it's bolted down upside down to help keep it in place. And we're going to switch views here. We're going to go to a side by side, and we're going to see what that swing looks like and what type of damage it does. So again, using that heavy tool, guys, always wear your gloves, safety gloves, all that. I got some here. I got to take them off when I hit the touchscreen. But let's take a look at what that looks like. So I'm going to glove up here, and then I'm going to generate as much power as I can. Now I got, our pallet's kind of like having a joist, right? I got a joist right down the middle of this thing. So to the right and the left here is two areas I can hit. Sometimes there's backing boards because of the pallet, and sometimes they're not. So some areas are going to break faster than others. But again, I'm going to swing up, I'm going to swing this thing up, and then I'm going to bring it straight down. I'm going to use my legs when I do it. Boom, snaps it right through. It broke right through. Boom, snap those boards. And what does that look like when I switch that over to the sledge side? Right? Get a little more bounce. It was the exact same force I put into it, and really just a little more bounce to it. That's all it was. So again, do the same thing using that single contact point. Instead of that tool bouncing, snapping, right? So again, go back to our main camera over here. What just happened, right? Sledge side, that your impact is absorbing everything because it's spread out on this larger surface area. When all that contact comes down to that centralized single contact point, generating a lot more pressure, 9.4 pounds higher pressure into that single contact point. This is everything, man. So when I bring my legs into it, boom. Now, I'm not opposed to just muscling everything, and there's some people might go up to a roof with just a sledge, good old Detroit style, just sledge it in. I get it. But we don't have to muscle everything. We can use tools, we can use design to our advantage. The problem in the fire service is how often we've just muscled everything. And we've used these adopted tools like sledgehammers or mauls, like wood splitting mauls, and even flathead axes. They're adopted tools, and we've used them. And we've said, well, hey, just use this tactic, or muscle it to make it better, instead of designing the tool. So here at Fire Mall Tools, we design the tool for the job at hand, right? So we're going to run down this a little bit more. We got some other tools to try here. I think one of the things we get compared to a lot is the Lawless tool. You guys will be able to see this, Lawless axe from the boys out in Texas. Man, this tool out in Texas makes sense. You get that single layer sheeting roofs, right? Not a lot to it. Maybe some old decking, but not like that multi-layer material. And unless you hit on the corner of this tool, right, we're going to be spreading that surface out because it's just a big, long flathead, right? So what that looks like, I can switch over again here, side by side. Maybe we'll end up comparing that to a Reaper, our new Reaper tool for puncturing through multi-layer material. So same sort of swing. I'm going to come in, but the key to this tool is probably hitting with the top corner if you can get it to snap decking. Boom! See, that was pretty broke off. So I'm going to scoot down a little bit because there was nothing underneath it. Let's put some support underneath that bad boy. What does that look like coming in? There's that bounce when it hit flush, right? So again, we'll go back to surface area. I'm going to come over here. I hit completely flush here, right? So the key to this thing, especially if you have multi-layer material, is switching to that top corner. Using that top corner where our blade is rolled back, so it always has that top corner, and you got to adjust your swing a little. And I'll probably be able to snap this now. So I'm going to come in and switch to a corner. Ah, didn't quite get it. Switch to a corner. There it was. Third swing, I was able to switch to that corner and penetrate through that stuff. So again, maximizing your swing, reducing your surface area when you want to punch through, adjusting your swing per your tool, right? How does that compare to maybe our new Reaper prototype? I'm going to pull up the comments here. Forgive me, I got to switch this thing. See if we had any more comments come through. Connor loves his Lawless. Goes through plywood like butter. Yeah, I bet you, man. I bet you that's the single layer plywood. I get it, man, for sure. Up here outside of Texas, we get some thicker roofs. Heck, if you want to swing away, man, have at it. But again, on this one, this is a new prototype here. Boom. Puncture through. I will say on the Lawless, before we get too far down the road, with the Lawless, with that big long beard, again, the concept there, just make sure you guys understand everything. The concept there is it has such a long beard, it's never going to puncture all the way through, so it's never getting stuck. So Connor, like you said, it goes through plywood. Absolutely. It's designed for that sheeting material to just puncture through and shear through that and never go all the way through without getting stuck. North Carolina too. That's cool, man. So, well, how does that compare to coming over here? Compare to, again, that centralized contact point. Same sort of swing. Let's see what happens. I come in, snaps it right away, man. Just snaps it right in half. Looking at that multi-layered material. I'm going to do it again. Snaps it in half. First swing, right? Again, multi-layered material. Multi-layered material. This tool in particular, so this is again a prototype. I actually took the edge completely off of it. So this thing is rolled back. I'm going to switch cameras again. Right here. Took that edge completely off it because we found that something that happens with plywood, and it's why people like to shear plywood with the back of a flathead axe or a lawless axe or something like that. The reason they rely on shearing is because plywood will bind. So if your entrance hole is not as big as the width of your blade or the width of your tool, right? That entrance hole is tiny. It binds and pinches on the blade itself, right? So it binds up real good. So we found that out even with our original. Let me show you a comparison. Our original prototype here, I wanted that super sharp point, right, for puncturing through, and it works great on flooring, for sure, man. It works great on flooring, that super sharp point. But it again, with this having that edge to it, I don't know if you can see, right in there, that edge to it, we found that even though this blade is only 1/2 inch thick, it still binds on plywood. I was surprised because your entrance hole is so small. So when we get into later, we'll have some roof props with some plywood on it, multi-layered plywood. The type of roofs I'm concerned about is extra thick material, right? But we can do some extra thick plywood on there, and we'll compare these two. But I found that you're almost shearing through with that because it's a dull edge. So you shear through, and it doesn't bind as much. But it seems to work pretty good on this flooring here, multi-layered flooring. So I'm going to do another swing here. I got to keep adjusting our other camera. So give me just a sec. I'm going to adjust our other camera down. Right about there. Wonder what we can compare that to. I have a flathead. We could try that as well. Why don't I do that? We already saw the new Reaper. That new Reaper is pretty light too. That's something to say. I'm going to switch to the dual camera here again. That new Reaper is pretty light. Just over 6 pounds versus an 8-pound tool. So the amount of force it generates because of that blade shape being so fine, it works pretty damn good. So 8-pound flathead here, coming in, boom. Hey, it smashed pretty good, stayed intact, didn't quite chop through. There we go. Once I lost the backing of the board, it went through, but here where the backing still is, it's staying tight. Let me go again. There again, so it kind of pushes the whole thing down, knocking the boards off and trying to break through the subfloor, the subboards underneath it, versus kind of chopping and snapping. But again, it's because we were spreading that surface area out over this. Whether I'm coming on this corner, we're still spreading that force out instead of having it be a chop. Well, Connor, which axe would you suggest for the best all around? I mean, obviously I'm going to say fire maul, but I can explain why, right? I can talk to you why and talk to you about the design. It's why we're doing these shows, or these live shows. So this time I just got done using the back of this flat thing. It worked good, but it punched the whole thing and it doesn't chop those boards. So I can go back to, how about our original Reaper, right? So two things, Connor. Connor's asking which axe would you suggest for best all around, right? Because of these differences I'm pointing out now. And so the reason fire maul tools ever existed, let me switch back to our standard camera. I mean, the reason we ever existed was I always liked having a maul. I liked having a splitting maul. I liked the opportunity to be able to smash the hell out of stuff or be able to chop stuff, but it was never designed for the fire service, right? So, I take this topside. I'm going topside with a 9.4 pound tool because I can smash the hell out of stuff. I can chop and puncture through multi-layered material. And again, guys, if you don't know, that patent works like this because I can puncture through, it'll catch on my shoulders, and I can roll out of the cut so it rolls out instead of pinching on itself. Compared to like a standard axe, you know, this one is not a pick head, but you know, it's a flat head. What happens when I puncture through, right? The beard of the blade catches, right? And this became a problem once we started having multi-layered material and sheeting, right? Interconnecting sheeting, it would pinch on itself. So you got to pry left, right, pull it out, get it out of there like that. And the whole design behind this, dropping tools, the whole design behind this is I puncture through, right? And it rolls out of the cut without getting stuck because there's no material here to get stuck on it. So that is part of the whole patented system between Firemaul. So if you're ask me, again, even on our OG Reaper, which actually is Reaper version 2.0, we're looking at getting these forged again, getting some more backup on the website. And we're obviously exploring the new versions as well. We always want to improve. I'm going to say the capabilities of this thing is you got easy, lightweight plywood or OSB, especially if OSB. I don't care what tool you use. In fact, at FDIC, we might have literally 1-inch bar stock showing that we can plunge through and break through OSB real easily. But what happens when we have multi-layered material? Again, our OG Reaper, sorry, Reaper 2.0 is really what this is. Working on Reaper 3.0, has that deep blade width, right? So I can puncture and roll out of the cut. The other thing it has is an extra blade width. So I talked about how that plywood binds. Well, this kind of spreads out as it goes. That will reduce your impact pressure as it comes in for chopping through multi-layer material. But on plywood, it gets wider so much faster, right? It's making that hole wider as it goes in, and it makes it easier to roll back out of the cut. But I can go all the way down to there, super thick depth, and then still roll out of the cut, right? So, you know, those are the pluses and minuses, right? Everything, we can't make the perfect tool for everybody, but we can try to cover as many bases as possible. So our Reaper 2.0 strictly for roof work is really, really good at that. The other thing is on our Firemaul and our mauler, I don't have I'd have to grab a mauler from up there. Our mauler, again, fluted edges here, right? Just like a sledgehammer. That way when I puncture through something, right, the edges don't catch. You can usually pull it out pretty quick versus a flathead. Again, why the Lawless has that big long blade, so that blade never goes all the way through, where a standard flathead will catch. And then since the corners aren't fluted, they want to get hung up on what it has punched through. And I'm going to grab a Reaper head, which I have right over here. Again, fluted edges, right? So that way when I do puncture through, the corners are not a high point and they don't get stuck. They don't get hung up on everything, right? So they punch through, but if it does go through, with the fluted corners, it can pull out a lot easier. It's almost self-extracting. Those are the reasons we have those on there. So, we'll give a couple swings on our, Reaper 2.0, probably bringing these back on the website here in the next 6 months, working on it. Let's switch to side by side. Boom, side by side again. I'm running out of space here. I'm going to cut a little bit further back where there's some cross members, because when there's nothing underneath the flooring, you punch through it pretty easy. So we got to come to where there's like a little bit of subflooring. Double checking my view. Looks pretty good right about there. So again, Reaper 2.0, let's see how it performs with that single contact point. So I'm going on top of, it's the pallet here, but I'm coming on top of the two kind of cross members here, or subflooring we can call it, right? Let's see what happens. Not too heavy of a swing, just a standard sort of swing, but using some of that force techniques I talked about, dropping my legs into it. So coming in, boom, hey, it snapped a little bit, boom, breaking through, breaking through, breaking through. So let's see if we can show you on this camera what happens if this did puncture through the multi-layered material. You can imagine it's a roof, right? It punctures through, it rolls out of the cut. What's interesting to me is the lighter Reaper 2.0, and I like an old standard here, the Reaper 2.0 or 3.0, the new one we're working on, it feels a little bit better to me. I'm not going to lie, and that's why I like doing live. You guys get to see kind of everything as it happens. I'm going to keep moving this down. Let's go all right there. See if I can get a decent swing right there. Coming in. Nice chop, broke right through, right? Snapped right through. Come down again. I'm going to come down even further because this is nothing but, there's no quote-unquote subflooring underneath here. Here there is, right? Here there is. So coming in again, last few swings on this thing, we're using Reaper 3.0 prototype. Coming in, 1, chop through in 2. A little bit of bounce there. Let's see if I bring in a little more heat to it. There, it's breaking through, breaking through, breaking through. Not as much power as the Reaper. We'll go back to the Reaper, generate a little more power, and then I might have 1 or 2 left on my maul. Actually, you know what? Let's bring the heat. Let's bring the maul. Big old heavy, and it's why I bring the heavy to me on roofs, right? Coming in here, big swing. It just, man, it just pulverizes so well. Oh, there's a bounce. There it is. Man, that maul. This is why we're called fire maul tools. The maul just hammers through that stuff. So I don't know if you can see it on the side-by-side over there. Oh, we had a little bit of bounce with the Reaper and that duller blade. Man, I don't know if you can beat the fire maul. So, so we got a question. Connor's asking if the Lawless and Chicago ads will marry good for added leverage. We haven't messed with it too much, but I know that notch they have on the back. It's a good opportunity to transition to forcible entry on this. But they're asking on the Lawless if the Chicago ads will marry good for extended leverage. And as you can see, it does pretty well, right? So it's a nice deep sink on there. And then marrying together, sits a little bit deeper. So I don't know, you guys really can't see, but it does sit pretty deep on that side. So I have to angle that when I'm marrying them together. But they sit a little bit tighter. But this will extend past a little bit. So, you know, the Chicago ad's definitely made to be married with our tools and have that same sort of width on our marrying notch. It works a little bit better. You can make this work. It'll stay together, especially with a strap. Maybe you could use our lanyard strap. But it will extend, you know, nice and deep there, right? So, good opportunity now to switch to forcible entry. So let's move our camera over. We had something happen here. I don't know what happened here. Little son of a gun. All right, Connor, we're going to switch over to forcible entry. We have our assistant has made it here. So we're switching over. Hopefully we got enough battery on this thing. And we are switching over, guys. Thank you so much for your patience. Don't like how that moves. So I'm going to go like that. Hopefully it stays put now. We can change this out. Paloma, say hi to everybody. Go say hi to everybody.
Hey guys.
There she is. Fire Mall Tools VC, baby. Vibes Keith is here.
I made it.
She made it. I'm just switching power over here. And then we're going to go over Halligan stuff and how we can improve our swing and the amount of force generated on a Halligan bar. So I'm going to switch this over. We're going to have just the one view. So hopefully this looks good and we have a decent angle on there. Let me move this. Let me grab my Fire Mall and our Chicago ads and just talk about swinging and some of the stuff that happens, you know, when you're forcing doors, right? I'm not going to bang on this too much, mostly because it gets super, super loud in here, right? Boss lady's in the house. That's right, Fred. She's here. She's here. So we're going to put her in charge of the Chicago ads, the Halligan bar. And I just wanted to go over a couple kind of tips on striking in general and some of the stuff we talk about in forcible entry and why we swing this way and how to control your swing and why your head moves and all that. So we're going to put Paloma in charge, and now she's going to have to work her arms for a little while because she's going to be holding this steady for a little bit. So she's going to come in here, let's say just below the lock, right? This door's already gapped. Right? Gap set force, it's already gapped. What it looks like when we got to strike that tool and how to generate as much force as possible. So one of the things that we do when we are swinging, how we generate force, and this plays into the reason why we see those pulling swings all the time, but you know, we're generating force, we're generating a fulcrum here, right? So I got my backhand and my forward hand, and if I'm doing it controlled, which is going to be this forward push where I am pushing this arm forward and I'm pulling the base of this tool back. So it is forward back and is much more controlled than that arcing swing. Now there are guys out there who get super dialed in with that arcing swing, which is great. When you start having limited visibility, that gets harder and harder to do, right? So what happens is guys are in here. Now ideally if you could be ambidextrous, I'd rather be swinging this way if I have room for it, right? Why? Does anybody know why that is? Because if I miss, I'm coming over here to the door as opposed to missing and coming over here, right? And smacking Paloma and taking her leg out. We don't want to do that. I'll be in trouble if we do that. So, you know, ideally, right, we'd be coming in here, but 9 times out of 10, if you're like me, we end up sticking with what we know, which is going to be, you know, my right hand. For me, I'm right-handed. We're going right-handed. In fact, I wonder if we can bring this in a little bit closer. I want to bring this in a little bit closer. You know, if I had my other camera set up, it'd be better, but I want to bring this in at least a little bit closer for you guys. Hopefully you can see and I don't block it too much, right? But when we generate that swing, so 9 times out of 10, I'm going to go with my right hand. This is the real deal. It's game time. It's fire time, right? I'm going to stick with what I know. It's always what we do. And so common misconception out there is that heavier tools are what make you start to swing wrong. And honestly, it's just when people get tired and our natural tendency, right? We always want to keep this upright and in line. And if I had a flathead axe, which is also upright and in line, which has not been designed to be upright and in line with this, we just adopted it that way, right? We had flathead axes before we had Halligan bars. So I hate it when I hear that flathead axe was designed to cross a Halligan bar. Well, the flathead axe we had before we had a Halligan bar, so that doesn't make any sense. But when you are hitting it, we usually say, keep that elongated striking face crossing that elongated striking face. But what happens is people get tired. And so we're doing that push-pull swing. I'm hitting here. We get tired, and naturally, my left hand is going to pull to my hip. Because otherwise, I'm putting it right in front of myself, right? And it's hard to get a lot of force when I'm keeping this thing right in front of myself. And so as I get tired, I start pulling this thing to my hip. And I come over and I'm pulling this thing to my hip. It's just our natural swing. I don't think it has anything to do with switching from a 6-pound to an 8-pound to a 10-pound. naturally we're going to pull that handle off to the left. And that is why I am such a big advocate for a large, wide striking face on mauls, because it does not matter which position I am in when I bring this. I have a large face no matter how I'm hitting this thing. It has a large striking face no matter what. So I don't want to be dependent on always crossing our tools. Let me pull our comments back up. Make sure nothing else came through. So again, generating power with this, we got that push-pull, and then we got that push-pull, and you're going to generate more power when you swing this to your hip. Take this tool, when I swing this and pull this to my hip, I'm going to generate more power. If you have a flathead axe, that gets dangerous, right? I start pulling this way, and then I start going up and over. What's going to happen when I miss? Boom! So you have to be careful, right? You've got to be careful. The other thing that I think works pretty well, and with our tools, why we have a flat top, and other flathead axes has it too, if there is space for it, as long as there's not a wall here, if there's space for it, I got plenty of space here. And I can usually, boom, swing it in here. Boom, swing it in here, right? And staying on target. So talking about staying on target, how we do that. If I were to be standing, and I am swinging, and again, I'm doing this because I have a maul. If I could, yes, I'd rather go this way, but you can see that might get difficult, right? Because I'm coming in here, it's not the right angle. I want to shoot that tool that way. I want to drive the forks in, right? So I might be in this position if I'm not down on one knee, right? So how do I stay on target? Well, it's definitely not doing this and swinging away, right? It's staying controlled. Keeping my hand where these marks are on here, right? Staying controlled, and we have to use our hips, right? So again, you probably wouldn't be doing this with a flathead axe, but you might be doing it with a maul. Flathead axe, I want this way. Nice thing about that maul, again, large striking face. I can come in here, but you're using your hips. I'm still doing a push-pull. I'm pushing this way. I'm pulling this way, and then I'm bringing my hips into it. Boom. And that's how I stay controlled. And if I really want to, right, we're not going to do it too much, but I'm coming in here. It's all on the hip movement that keeps you accurate. Boom, boom, without missing. We all say the video where the guy misses and the guy busts his hand because he's using a flathead axe, and he's up here this way, and he's coming this way, and then he's coming this way, bam, and he smacks that wrist. He's not staying controlled. Push, pull, up, down if you can. If you're using a maul, you're coming in here, boom, coming in here, and I'm using my hips to stay on target. So the other one is ramming if we can. Might be hard if there's a wall. Ramming if we can, right? I get tired. A lot of times people are just here, and they're just pushing, small little pushes, right? So that is the kind of the once over on generating force, as much force as possible, and also staying on target. Staying on target. So we got to move this back up. I'm cutting myself off here. So guys, thank you for joining the live tool tips, FMT tips and tactics live. I want to keep doing stuff like this. I want to keep explaining the tools more and more. I want you guys to make sure you understand the design completely. And guys, if you're on a fire department and you have sledgehammers, get rid of them. Or at least get one or two of the fire mauls in there, right? Sledgehammer, good for hitting stuff. Fire maul, good for hitting stuff, good for extending your leverage, good for capturing your progress, good for leveraging, good for prying, good for all sorts of stuff outside of that sledge face or just that strict double-sided sledge face, right? We try to make tools built for the job and add capabilities. So that is it for our live video, guys. Thank you so much for hopping in. You guys that commented, we really appreciate it. We like to give everything a fair shake here. Even if they're not our tools, we will tell you what we think of those tools and how they're designed to work. So that's it. Boss lady, thank you for showing up. You did a fine job holding onto that halligan bar. You guys, make sure you congratulate her. Tell her thank you for coming and joining us, okay? So, stitch hook demo someday. Yep, we will get one done, brother. We'll get one done. We're focused on FDIC coming up. Our next live will end up being a FDIC preview. We'll have our doors set up and hopefully our new mini baby roof prop set up too, so you guys can get a look at what FDIC is going to look like and the new prototypes we're kind of playing with and showing off out there. This year is a development year. You guys get to see maybe a tech bar, tech bar, and our other prototypes you kind of already saw. So, all right, guys, thank you.